The Boston Celtics pulled off a great trade, by all means, last night, and this one feels like purely money-saving moves. Instant reactions to the Celtics trading Kristaps for Georges Niang in a second.
I get what they're doing. I get new ownership. I get the Tatum injury means you kind of have to change things up significantly. And we knew they were going to try to shed those 2 salaries. It's still gross for them. Like, that's still a very bad return. Trae Young, Kristaps Porzingis, pick and pops.
His first,
it's gonna be fun.
His first pop option. He's been the best pick and roll point guard in the NBA the past 5 years. He just got an elite pop option.
Good for Atlanta.
How often he's going to be available, that remains to be seen. But Porzingis having Jalen Johnson, Zachary Risachet, and Dyson Daniels defending around him, he's not a bad defender in his own right. But having that is very similar to the template that got him a championship the season before last with Boston.
And it's a team that's losing Clint Capella most likely now in free agency. Onyeka Okongwu is there.
They can spend time together.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it was Capella or Okongwu. Now it's Porzingis and Okongwu or Risachet or Jalen Johnson. I mean, giving up Terrence Mann, who's fine, Georges Niang, who's fine, and a second-round pick. And I get there are some current concerns with Kristaps, and you don't know what's going on with his health, so we can't speak on it like too much, but I can't say that there's no concern there considering how you saw him in the playoffs. But if you're going to trade for him, this feels about as buy low could possibly be. And if this works for Atlanta in an Eastern Conference where Tyrese Halliburton is injured, where Damian Lillard is injured, and where Jason Tatum is injured, Atlanta might be, if everything works out, which is a big if, a top 4, top 3 seed in the East next year.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the Rock, I mean, not as far as the Rock, as far as the Hawks goes, for Quinn Snyder, that's big time for him to run the type of offensive system that he's been trying to get them towards. I think them also having so many options lineup-wise to where you can mitigate Porzingis' minutes or you can mitigate the injuries by scaling back his minutes and doing so effectively because of the pieces you have around him. I think that's probably the biggest piece in all of that.
Can we talk about the Nets, who now own number 8, number 19, number 22, number 26, number 27, and number 36?
They're not keeping all of those.
I want them to use all of them just for fun.
They Something are not to keep an eye on. Keeping all of those. It's what I'm getting at. They're not keeping them all. I didn't think they were keeping the ones they already had. They add 22 to the pot.
So do we think that this helps out Phoenix? I mean, Claxton, Cam Johnson, there's been links there. Obviously, the Suns have the 10 pick. It's been widely known that the Nets want to move on and up into the 10th, into the lottery again. Do we feel like this could be the move before the move with the Suns?
Potentially. I mean, more flexibility in terms of trade options does not hurt if you're talking about, Claxton and or Cam Johnson coming to Phoenix. Brad Beal and number 10 going to Brooklyn. It's a lot to give up a top 10 pick, but if the Nets now have more picks, they are later on in the draft, obviously. Like, I don't know that you're going to get 19 out of that exchange. Yeah. But now they have 22, 26, 27, and 36 to play ball with. Maybe there's something there. I don't know. Something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, that was it for me. I wasn't sure if the Suns would want to go with one of those later picks, 26 and 27 in particular, in terms of a pick swap, even if you are getting 2 players that would immediately start for you. I do believe that 22 is a whole lot more in that ballpark range that would appease the Suns in a pick swap scenario, while also getting the likes of Johnson and Claxton that I kind of been speaking to for a little minute now. So I feel like it makes more sense with 22 involved. I don't imagine Brooklyn keeps probably 3 of those picks going in the first round, going into tomorrow's draft. So
I mean, they have a lot of room on the roster, right? Like, they can use a lot of those picks. I think
they had the most, well, maybe not necessarily after this trade, but they had the most cap space in the league going into this offseason.
Real quick here before we wrap up. Bradley Beal for Nick Claxton and Cam Johnson works money-wise, right? Now, depending on how you feel about this draft, we've talked about there's a lot of movement, and some of the guys the Suns have been interested in have also been kind of mocked to the late teens, maybe even early 20s. If you give up 10 with Bradley Beal and you get Claxton, Johnson, and one other pick in the 20s, do you do that? Because that's 2 starting caliber players, and you still keep a first-round pick. You get off of Bradley Beal's contract, but you do give up number 10.
Yeah, I think you might. I think you just not like giving up 10 hurts. I won't lie. And there are some prospects I really like there, but I think Claxton is a better player than what center you might get at number 10. I like Cam Johnson on the wing for this team, especially coming off a career year. Going from 10 to 22 kind of hurts a little bit, but like we've been saying, outside of the top 7 or 8 guys, from then on, it's kind of like the rest of the first round. It's, I don't want to say splitting hairs, but it's beauty in the eye of the beholder a little bit. So I would potentially do that. And somebody asked why the Nets would make this trade when they already have number 8, why they would trade for number 10. There have been reports that they're actively pursuing a second lottery pick. So that would be the reason there.
It takes overtime.
Well, yeah, we'll head to overtime here right now. Appreciate you watching on TV. Let's keep things rolling, though, just for a second here. Again, we'll be live for an entire first round of the draft tomorrow. If anything does happen, we'll be live for it. I think, Steven, for Brooklyn's perspective, you take on some dead salary for a couple of years. And sure, you're giving up Claxton and Johnson. I don't think either of those two are on the timeline that they're trying to set. And you do move up to the 10th pick, and you have all your other picks as well. You're basically going full youth movement with 2 big swings. And maybe if you're Brooklyn, you package 8 and 10 together, and then you can move up and maybe get into the top 5 and whatnot with more capital behind you. To me, this move, I'm not saying it makes the Bradley Beal or the 10 pick or Nick Claxton and Cam Johnson, like it's going to happen, but it does make a little more sense to me.
Yeah, it makes it make more sense for both teams. And I think for Brooklyn, they have options on the table. I think the point where you talk about packaging at 8 and 10, I think you call back San Antonio and you ask about number 2, see what you can do there with anything. Maybe that involves Cam Johnson in a certain extent. Maybe he ends up in San Antonio. And then Brooklyn ends up getting Dylan Harper, who's someone they've been high on, as high as anybody. So I don't know. There's options on the table. I feel like there's going to be multiple moves that happen before tomorrow's draft.
Yeah, just so you know, the Celtics are now out of the second apron with that move.
We all silly like the mayor.